The crystal chandeliers of Belmont's cast golden shadows across marble floors worth more than most people's homes. Tonight, like every night for the past 3 years, the city's elite gathered to feast on imported delicacies while the world outside struggled to survive. Then she walked in, Elena Vasquez, 22 years old, clutching an 8-month-old baby against her chest. Her worn scrubs told a story of better days. Her hollow cheeks whispered of hunger. The baby's soft whimpers echoed through the pristine dining room like a confession of desperation. Every conversation stopped. Every fork paused midair. The maitre d' rushed forward, his face flushed with embarrassment. "Ma'am, I'm sorry, but this establishment requires—" "I'm not here to eat," Elena interrupted, her voice steady despite the hostile stares. "I just need to ask someone a question." She walked past tables of shocked socialites, past women dripping in diamonds who had never known true hunger. Her destination was clear, table 17, where Vincent Cross sat alone, methodically cutting his untouched steak. The construction magnate looked up as Elena approached. His steel-gray eyes had seen too much tragedy, lost too much love. For 3 years, he'd eaten at this same table, at this same time, trying to fill a void that $50 million couldn't heal. "Sir," Elena said quietly, "can I have your leftovers? My son hasn't eaten in 2 days." The silence that followed was deafening. Vincent studied her face. Something flickered in his expression, recognition of a pain he knew too well. "2 days?" he asked softly. "2 days," Elena confirmed, her dignity intact despite her desperation. The restaurant manager materialized beside them, his face purple with indignation. "This is absolutely unacceptable. Security will escort you out immediately." But Vincent raised his hand. "Wait." The single word carried enough authority to freeze everyone in place. "You said 2 days," Vincent continued, his voice cutting through the tension. "What happened 2 days ago?" Elena shifted baby Mateo to her other arm. "I lost my job at Riverside Medical Center. Been looking for work since, but—" she gestured to her surroundings. "Places like this don't exactly hire people like me." Riverside Medical Center. Vincent's voice sharpened. "What department?" "Cardiac ICU. I was a nurse there for 4 years until—" A wine glass shattered at table 12. Everyone turned toward the sound. Dr. Margaret Hayes, head of cardiology at Riverside Medical Center, stood frozen, red wine spreading across white linen like spilled blood. Her perfectly composed face had gone pale. Until what? Vincent pressed, his attention now completely focused on Elena. If you're enjoying this story, kindly do us a favor and subscribe to our channel. It is free and won't cost anything, but it means the world to us. We're just a small channel trying to grow. Thank you, and back to the video. Elena's jaw tightened. "Until a patient died on my watch. At least, that's what they said happened." The restaurant manager stepped forward again. "Mr. Cross, surely we don't need to listen to this person's sob story. I'll have security." "Touch her and you'll never work in this city again," Vincent said coldly. Dr. Hayes began gathering her purse, moving with deliberate casualness toward the exit. But Vincent had noticed the broken glass, the timing, the fear in her eyes. "Dr. Hayes," Vincent called out, his voice carrying across the restaurant. "Leaving so soon?" The doctor froze, her back still turned. Slowly, she faced the room, her professional smile perfectly in place. "Vincent, darling, I didn't see you there. Just finished a wonderful dinner." "I'm sure you did." Vincent's tone was ice. "Dr. Hayes, meet Elena Vasquez. She used to work at your hospital." "I don't recall." "I remember you perfectly," Elena interrupted, her voice gaining strength. "You remember me too. I can see it in your eyes." Dr. Hayes laughed, but the sound was forced. "My dear, I meet hundreds of nurses. You can't expect me to remember every nurse who questioned your methods?" Elena stepped closer. "Every nurse who documented your mistakes? Every nurse you destroyed to protect yourself?" The temperature in the room seemed to drop 10 degrees. Vincent stood slowly, his full attention now on the unfolding drama. Something was happening here. Something bigger than a desperate mother asking for food. "What kind of mistakes?" Vincent asked. Elena never took her eyes off Dr. Hayes. "The kind that kill patients. The kind that get covered up. The kind that ruin innocent people's lives when they threaten to expose the truth." Dr. Hayes' smile finally cracked. "This is ridiculous. Security, please escort this disturbed individual." "I have photographs," Elena said quietly. The words hung in the air like a death sentence. "Photographs of what?" Vincent demanded. "Of the original prescription orders. Before she changed them. Before Mr. Morrison died because someone altered his medication dosage and blamed me for following the original orders. Dr. Hayes went completely white. Vincent's eyes narrowed. He'd donated millions to Riverside Medical Center. His own wife had died in a hospital due to negligence. The familiar rage began building in his chest. You photograph medical records? Dr. Hayes tried to regain control. That's illegal. That's legal when you're protecting yourself from fraud, Elena replied. Legal when you know someone's setting you up to take the fall for their negligence. The restaurant had become a theater. Every customer, every waiter, every busboy stood transfixed by the unfolding confrontation. Vincent stepped between the two women. What exactly are you saying happened? Elena looked directly at Dr. Hayes. I'm saying she killed Harold Morrison by changing his anticoagulant dosage without documenting it. When he started bleeding internally, she falsified records to make it look like I administered the wrong medication. That's slander, Dr. Hayes hissed. That's truth, Elena shot back. And I can prove every word. Vincent's voice was deadly quiet. How? Elena reached into her worn bag and pulled out a manila envelope. Because I photograph every prescription in complex cases. Because I learned early that in hospitals, nurses are expendable when doctors need scapegoats. Dr. Hayes made a desperate lunge for the envelope, but Vincent blocked her path. Not so fast, doctor. The entire restaurant held its breath as Elena opened the envelope with trembling hands. What she revealed would destroy everything Dr. Hayes had built. But what nobody knew, not Vincent, not Dr. Hayes, not even Elena herself, was that this moment would expose something far bigger than one doctor's malpractice. What they were about to discover would shake the very foundations of the city's medical establishment. And Dr. Margaret Hayes knew that if these photographs saw the light of day, she wouldn't be the only one going down. Elena's fingers closed around the first photograph, and the real nightmare was about to begin. If you're enjoying this story, kindly do us a favor and subscribe to our channel. It is free and won't cost anything, but it means the world to us. We're just a small channel trying to grow. Thank you, and back to the video. The photograph Elena held showed 2 prescription orders for the same patient. Same date, same doctor's signature, completely different dosages. Harold Morrison, 73 years old, Elena announced, her voice carrying across the silent restaurant. Original prescription, 5 milligrams of warfarin. Your altered prescription, 50 milligrams. Dr. Hayes lunged forward. Give me that. Vincent caught her wrist. Don't even think about it. Elena spread more photographs across Vincent's table like deadly playing cards. Here's the pharmacy log showing the original order. Here's your handwritten change, made 2 hours after Mr. Morrison started bleeding. The restaurant manager pulled out his phone, ready to call security. Vincent's glare stopped him cold. And here, Elena continued, pulling out a small recording device, is the conversation you had with the pharmacist, instructing him to correct the records after Mr. Morrison died. Dr. Hayes' face went ashen. That's impossible. I never. Elena pressed play. Dr. Hayes' voice filled the restaurant, crystal clear. Listen carefully, Roberto. The Morrison prescription needs to be corrected in the system. Change it to match what the nurse administered. We can't have any inconsistencies. The silence was deafening. Vincent's jaw clenched. You recorded your conversations? Every suspicious conversation for 3 years, Elena replied. I knew someone was setting up nurses to take the fall. I just didn't know how deep it went. Dr. Hayes tried to back toward the exit. This is all fabricated. Anyone can fake. With timestamps and metadata? Elena interrupted. With pharmacy security camera footage showing you personally altering prescriptions? Vincent stood slowly. His construction empire had taught him to recognize corruption. His wife's death had taught him to hate medical negligence. This was both. How many patients? Vincent asked quietly. Elena's voice hardened. 17 confirmed deaths. 32 near-fatal complications. All blamed on nursing staff who were fired or transferred. The number hit the restaurant like a physical blow. Dr. Hayes made another desperate attempt to flee, but Vincent blocked her path. You're not going anywhere. You can't keep me here, Dr. Hayes snapped. This is kidnapping. This is justice, Vincent replied coldly. Elena pulled out her phone. Dr. Santos, are you ready? A voice crackled through the speaker. We've been ready for months, Elena. Beginning broadcast now. Dr. Hayes' eyes widened in horror. What broadcast? Elena smiled grimly. The one that's about to expose your entire operation. She held up her phone. On the screen, for people sat at a conference table. Dr. Santos from the ICU, Nurse Rebecca Chun, pharmacist Miguel Torres, and technician Luis Rivera. Good evening, Dr. Santos announced to what was clearly a live stream. We are healthcare whistleblowers exposing the largest medical corruption scandal in state history. The restaurant erupted in whispers. Customers began pulling out their phones, recording everything. Dr. Hayes grabbed Elena's phone. Turn it off. Turn it off now. Vincent pried the device from her hands. Let them talk. On screen, Rebecca Chun held up a thick folder. We have documented evidence of medical equipment theft, prescription fraud, and patient deaths covered up by Riverside Medical Center's administration. The live viewer count was climbing rapidly. 500. 1,000. 2,500 viewers. Miguel Torres displayed bank statements. Dr. Margaret Hayes has received over $400,000 in payments from private clinics buying stolen medical equipment. Dr. Hayes collapsed into a chair. This isn't happening. This can't be happening. Oh, it's happening, Elena said. 3 years of planning. 3 years of gathering evidence. 3 years of waiting for the perfect moment. Vincent's phone buzzed. He glanced at the screen and his face darkened. Dr. Hayes, you've been stealing equipment that my foundation donated? Vincent, I can explain. $2 million in cardiac monitors, Vincent continued, reading from his phone. CT scanners, surgical equipment, all donated by the Cross Foundation, all missing from hospital inventory. The livestream viewer count hit 10,000. Luis Rivera held up invoices. Equipment donated by the Cross Foundation, sold to Westside Private Hospital for 60 cents on the dollar. All proceeds deposited into offshore accounts. Dr. Hayes buried her face in her hands. Stop this. Please, just stop this. Elena knelt beside her. Stop? Like you stopped when Harold Morrison was dying? Like you stopped when you destroyed my career to cover your tracks? Vincent's phone rang. He answered immediately. Cross Foundation emergency line. His face went white as he listened. He hung up and stared at Dr. Hayes. That was the FBI, Vincent announced to the restaurant. They're executing search warrants at Riverside Medical Center right now. The live stream exploded with comments. Hashtags began trending. Hashtag Riverside Scandal, hashtag Medical Corruption, hashtag Justice for Elena. Dr. Hayes looked up with desperate eyes. Vincent, please. We can work something out. I can pay back. Pay back? Vincent's voice was ice. Pay back the lives of 17 patients who died because you sold their life-saving equipment. Elena stood, still holding baby Mateo. Dr. Hayes, you thought you were destroying one troublesome nurse. Instead, you created a network of whistleblowers who've been documenting your crimes for years. The livestream viewer count hit 25,000. Rebecca Chun made the final announcement. Tomorrow morning, the FBI will arrest multiple administrators at Riverside Medical Center. The state attorney general will announce the largest healthcare fraud case in state history. Dr. Hayes' phone began ringing incessantly. Local news outlets. Hospital administrators. Her lawyer. She answered one call with shaking hands. Hello. Everyone in the restaurant could hear the panicked voice. Margaret, they're here. FBI agents are in your office. They have boxes of evidence. Dr. Hayes dropped the phone. Elena walked over to Vincent's table and carefully organized her photographs. Mr. Cross, thank you for listening. Most people wouldn't have. Vincent studied her face. What do you need now? Justice, Elena replied simply, and maybe a chance to rebuild the system that failed so many patients. The livestream viewer count hit 50,000. Outside Belmont's, the first news van pulled up, then another, then 3 more. Dr. Margaret Hayes watched through the window as her 30-year career crumbled in real time. The corruption network she'd built so carefully was being dismantled piece by piece, broadcast live to tens of thousands of viewers. Elena packed her evidence carefully, baby Mateo sleeping peacefully in her arms. Vincent stood beside her. Elena, I think we need to talk about the future. What future? She asked. Vincent smiled grimly. The one where we make sure this never happens again. But neither Vincent nor Elena knew that the real earthquake was still coming. Because what they'd exposed tonight was just the beginning. The corruption at Riverside Medical Center ran deeper than anyone imagined, involving people who would stop at nothing to protect themselves. And some of those people were already making phone calls, planning their counterstrike. The war for justice had only just begun. If you're enjoying this story, kindly do us a favor and subscribe to our channel. It is free and won't cost anything, but it means the world to us. We're just a small channel trying to grow. Thank you, and back to the video. The golden morning sun streamed through the floor-to-ceiling windows of the Vincent Cross Community Hospital. Elena Vasquez walked through the pristine corridors, her heels clicking against marble floors that rivaled those of Belmont's restaurant. But this time, she belonged here. Director Vasquez, called Dr. Santos, approaching with a warm smile. The morning briefing is ready. Elena adjusted her crisp white coat, the words Director of Nursing embroidered in gold thread. 6 months ago, she'd been begging for scraps. Today, she ran the most innovative hospital in 3 states. The transformation had been nothing short of miraculous. After that night at Belmont's, the dominoes had fallen with breathtaking speed. Dr. Margaret Hayes received 15 years in federal prison. 3 hospital board members were indicted. The corruption network that had stolen $12 million over 5 years was completely dismantled. But the real victory wasn't in the destruction of the old system. It was in the creation of something entirely new. Elena entered the conference room where her team was waiting. Rebecca Chun, now head of the ethics department. Miguel Torres, chief pharmacist. Luis Rivera, director of medical equipment. The same whistleblowers who had risked everything were now rebuilding healthcare from the ground up. The numbers are incredible, Rebecca announced, spreading reports across the table. Zéro corruption incident. 0 equipment theft. 100% transparency in all transactions. Elena smiled. And patient outcomes? Best in the state, Miguel replied. Our medication error rate is 90% lower than the national average. Our patient satisfaction scores are unprecedented. Through the window, Elena could see the hospital's newest addition under construction. The children's wing, funded entirely by donations that poured in after their story went viral. Hashtag Justice for Elena had become hashtag Hope for Everyone. Vincent Cross entered the room, 18-month-old Mateo in his arms. The boy had learned to walk in these halls, surrounded by the healing energy of people who genuinely cared about saving lives. Nana, Mateo called out, reaching for Elena. She took her son, marveling at how much had changed. Vincent had become more than a benefactor. He'd become family. The trauma of losing his own wife and daughter had found healing through protecting Elena and Mateo. The state legislature just passed the Vasquez Protocol, Vincent announced. It's now law in 5 states, with 12 more pending approval. The Vasquez Protocol mandated complete transparency in hospital donations, absolute protection for medical whistleblowers, and criminal penalties for equipment theft. It was being hailed as the most comprehensive healthcare reform in decades. Elena's phone buzzed with a news alert. She glanced at the screen and froze. What is it? Vincent asked, noticing her expression. Elena held up her phone. The headline read, Dr. Margaret Hayes found dead in prison cell. The room fell silent. Natural causes, Elena read aloud. Prison officials report she died of a heart attack during the night. Rebecca frowned. She was only 58. No history of heart problems. Miguel's expression darkened. That's convenient timing. Her appeal hearing was scheduled for next week. Elena felt a chill run down her spine. Something felt wrong about this. Hayes had been in protective custody, away from the general prison population. She'd been healthy at her last court appearance. Vincent's phone rang. He answered immediately. Cross here. His face grew grave as he listened. Are you certain? When did this happen? He hung up and looked at Elena with concern. That was my security chief. Someone broke into the hospital's administrative offices last night. They were looking for specific files. What files? Elena asked. Yours. Your employment records, your evidence files, everything related to the corruption case. The pieces began falling into place with terrifying clarity. Elena's hands trembled as she realized the implications. Hayes wasn't the top of the pyramid. She was middle management. Rebecca's eyes widened. You think someone had her killed? I think someone's been watching us rebuild this hospital, waiting for the right moment to strike back, Elena replied. Vincent's expression hardened. Who would have that kind of power? Elena's phone rang. Unknown number. She answered cautiously. Hello? A distorted voice spoke. Elena Vasquez. You thought you won, didn't you? The room erupted in tension. Vincent immediately signaled for someone to trace the call. Who is this? Elena demanded. Someone who's been watching you play hero for 6 months. Someone who's tired of watching you destroy what took decades to build. Elena's voice steadied. The corruption network is finished. Hayes is dead. It's over. Laughter echoed through the phone. Hayes was a small fish. You haven't even met the sharks yet. The line went dead. Vincent was already on his phone with security. Full lockdown. No one enters or leaves without authorization. Elena looked around the room at her team, her family, her life's work. Everything they'd built was under threat. But she'd been here before. She'd faced impossible odds and won. They made one mistake, Elena said quietly. What's that? Vincent asked. Elena's eyes hardened with determination. They think I'm still the desperate mother who begged for scraps at Belmont's. They don't understand that I'm not just fighting for myself anymore. She stood, holding Matteo close. I'm fighting for every patient who walks through these doors. For every nurse who refuses to accept corruption as normal. For every child who deserves to grow up in a world where healthcare means healing, not profit. Rebecca stood beside her. We all are. Miguel Nadid. Whatever comes next, we face it together. Luis crossed his arms. They want a war. They'll get one. Vincent smiled grimly. Then let's give them a fight they'll never forget. Outside, storm clouds gathered over the city. The battle for justice had entered a new phase. Elena Vasquez had risen from the ashes of her destroyed career to become a force for change. She'd exposed corruption, saved lives, and built something beautiful from the ruins of a broken system. But the real war was just beginning. Somewhere in the shadows, powerful people were planning their revenge. They had resources, connections, and the ruthless determination to protect their interests at any cost. But they'd made one fatal miscalculation. They thought they were fighting against one woman. They were actually fighting against an idea. The idea that justice could triumph over corruption. That ordinary people could change the world. That hope was stronger than fear. And ideas, once unleashed, are impossible to kill. Elena Vasquez walked to the window, looking out at the city she'd sworn to protect. Matteo played happily in her arms, unaware of the storm approaching. The phoenix had risen from the ashes. Now it was time to soar.